The crying wasn't from a tantrum. It was pure terror, and it was coming from inside a Dodge parked at the back of the 24-hour market, where nobody should be at that hour of the morning. But what the Edge Rider didn't know yet was that the real danger wasn't inside the car, because in less than 3 minutes, he would be caught between a bloodied child and a man with everything to lose. Harley broke the silence of the empty parking lot at 2:37 a.m. Edge turned off the engine and sensed something was wrong even before taking off his helmet. The air was too heavy, too hot, as if something had just happened there and still lingered in the air like invisible smoke. He got off his motorcycle, his boots squeaking on the cracked asphalt. The 24-hour market flickered with that cold neon light that makes everything seem like a badly filmed nightmare. Only 2 cars in the parking lot, his and a black Dodge Charger with tinted windows parked in the darkest corner, far from the security cameras, that probably didn't even work anymore. That's when he heard a muffled sob, small, desperate, the kind of sound a child makes when they've cried so much their throat can't take any more. Edge turned his head slowly. The sound was coming from behind an industrial dumpster near the barbed wire fence that separated the parking lot from a vacant lot. He walked there slowly, but with the weight on his shoulders of someone who had seen this before. He knew this scenario, and he knew it never ended. Well, a boy, maybe 7 years old, too thin for his age, a t-shirt 3 sizes too big, stained with something that could have been ketchup or dried blood. His eyes were swollen and red, fixed on the ground as if looking up was too dangerous. Edge stopped 2 meters away. "Hey, kid." The boy swallowed his sobs and stepped back, leaning his back against the fence. His fingers gripped the wire as if it were the only solid thing in the world. "I'm not going to hurt you," Edge said, lowering his voice to almost a whisper. "Are you alone?" The boy shook his head. His lips trembled so much it looked like he was going to collapse at any second. He pointed at Dodge with a thin, dirty finger. "She's in there." Edge felt his stomach clench, that feeling he knew so well, that certainty that something very bad was happening just a few meters away. "Who?" "My sister." The boy's voice was a whisper. It almost disappeared in the cold wind that was beginning to blow between the buildings. "Is someone with her?" The boy nodded. His eyes filled with tears again, but he blinked rapidly, trying to hold them back, trying to be strong, the way he'd probably been taught to be. "He said that if I got out of the car, he was going to really hurt her. He said he was going to do things, bad things." Edge looked at the Dodge. The windows were fogged up on the inside as if someone had been breathing there for a long time. Something stirred in the back seat, slowly, like someone trying to hide or shrink until they disappeared. He looked at the boy again. He studied the boy's hands. They were purple, cold, trembling. "How long have you been out here?" "I don't know. I think a long time. He took me out of the car when we arrived. He said I had to stay here, that if I screamed he would. The boy couldn't finish. He just lowered his head and bit his lower lip so hard that Edge saw a drop of blood appear. Edge slowly crouched down until he was at the boy's level. He looked into the boy's eyes. He saw fear. He saw despair. He saw something no child should have to carry. "Look at me." The boy hesitated. Then he slowly raised his eyes, as if expecting to be reprimanded. "I'll get your sister out of there. But you need to stay here. Quiet. Don't make a sound. Can you do that?" The boy nodded too quickly. Edge realized he had already learned to obey without question, and that was worse than any yelling, worse than any visible mark. He stood up. He took a deep breath. He felt the icy air enter his lungs and burn. He walked toward the Dodge. Each step sounded too loud in the silence of the empty parking lot. His heart pounded at a rhythm he knew well, the rhythm of when there's no turning back, When you've already crossed the line, and the only direction is forward. When I was 3 meters away from the car, the driver's side door opened with a metallic creak, and a man left. Tall, broad-shouldered, a tattoo on his neck that looked like a coiled snake. Dead eyes, dull, devoid of humanity. He looked at Edge like one looks at a stray dog that has appeared in the wrong place. "Are you going to leave, or do you want trouble, man?" Edge didn't answer. He just stopped. He planted his feet on the ground. He fixed his eyes on the back seat of the Dodge. There was a girl, maybe 5 years old, disheveled hair, full of knots, her mouth covered with silver tape, her hands tied in front of her body with a piece of yellow rope, and she was looking directly at him. Her eyes were brown, large, wet, and completely devoid of hope, as if she had already given up, as if she already knew that no one would come, that no one cared enough to take the risk. But Edge recognized that look, because he had seen it in the mirror for years, when he was a child, when no one came, when no one believed, when he screamed inside and the world pretended to be deaf. And at that moment, seeing that girl looking at him like someone looking at the last plank in a shipwreck, Edge made a decision. He wasn't going to leave. It didn't matter what it cost. If you feel this child deserves to be saved, subscribe to this channel right now. And in the comments, tell me where you're watching this story from. Because what comes next will stay with you forever. The girl's eyes were dark brown, almost black in the dim light of the nearest lamppost. She didn't blink. She didn't cry. She didn't move. She just stared at Edge like someone looking at yet another adult who will pretend not to. See, another one who will walk right past. Another one who will choose their own safety over doing the right thing. Edge recognized that look because he had lived that look. At 6 years old, he woke up every morning in a house that smelled of cheap cigarettes and spilled beer on the carpet. His stepfather was always in the living room, eyes red, hands heavy. His mother passed out on the sofa or locked in her room, fleeing a reality she herself had helped to create. And he, alone, trying to figure out if that day would be merely bad or completely unbearable. He learned early on that adults lie, that promises are made to be broken, that shouting is useless when no one wants to listen, that sometimes silence is the only way to survive. It took 12 years for someone to notice. A substitute teacher who saw the marks on his arm when his shirt sleeve rode up during physical education class, who asked the right questions, who didn't accept the rehearsed answers, who called social services even knowing it would complicate her life. But it was too late to save who he once was. That boy had died sometime between 3rd and 4th grade. What remained was this version, harder, colder, more willing to do whatever it took. Edge blinked. He returned to the present. The girl still held his gaze, as if testing him, as if silently asking herself, "Are you different? Or are you the same as everyone else?" He took a step forward. The man also gave, blocking the view. "Are you deaf? Or—" "Stupid, man. I told you to get lost." Edge stopped. He looked at the man. He studied him. Large hands with swollen, scraped knuckles, sweat on his neck despite the cold, rapid breathing, nervousness disguised as anger. He was afraid, trying to hide it. But Edge saw it. He always saw it. "Is this girl yours?" Edge asked, his voice low but firm as concrete. "That's none of your business." "Then it isn't." The man narrowed his eyes. He took another step, invading Edge's personal space, trying to intimidate him. "You want to die here, old man, is that it? Because I can take care of that right now." Edge didn't back down. He didn't look away. He just breathed. Slowly, controlled. "Do you think I came here by chance?" The man hesitated. He looked around. The parking lot was empty. The street was deserted. No cars were passing by, no witnesses, Just him, Edge, and two children no one would look for if they disappeared. But Edge was not alone. He was never there, because at the far end of the parking lot, coming from the side entrance, 3 Harley headlights cut through the darkness. The deep rumble of the V-twin engines echoed between the buildings like distant thunder. A warning, a promise. The man turned his head. His face lost its color. The false confidence evaporated. 3 motorcyclists dismounted, slowly, silently, just the rhythmic weight of their boots on the cracked asphalt. One of them was taller than a refrigerator door, with arms covered in tattoos that seemed to tell stories of violence. Another had a scar that cut his face in half, from his forehead to his chin, as if someone had tried to split him in two and almost succeeded. The third was a woman, short, thin, icy eyes that seemed to see right through people. She was more dangerous than the two of them combined, and everyone knew it. Edge looked back at the man. He saw the fear growing. You saw reality setting in. "Now you have 2 options," Edge said, his voice still low but heavy with emotion. "Open the door, or we'll open it for you, and you won't like the second way." The man was breathing fast now. Sweat trickled down his forehead despite the cold wind. He glanced at the back seat of the Dodge, at the girl, then back at the Edge, calculating, searching for a way out. "You don't know who you're messing with," he said, but his voice trembled. It lacked conviction. "We know exactly," the woman said, stopping beside Edge. "We know what you are, and we know what will happen if you don't do what he says." The silence weighed like molten lead. The man looked at the ground, then at the sky, as if searching for divine help that wasn't coming, as if hoping someone would appear and change the course of events. Nobody showed up. Then he took a step back. He opened the back door with trembling hands, and he stepped out of the way. Edge walked to the car. He bent down slowly. He saw the girl huddled in the corner of the seat. So small, so fragile. Hands tied with industrial duct tape. Bare feet. A dark stain on a pink dress that could be dirt or dried blood. He extended his hand, slowly, without rushing, without forcing. "You're safe now," he said, his voice soft, almost a whisper. The girl didn't move. She kept looking at him, testing, deciding. Edge waited. He breathed along with her. He didn't rush. He didn't force anything. He simply offered. And then very slowly, she extended her small hand, trembling, cold as ice. When her fingers touched his, Edge felt something break inside his chest, an old crack he had been trying to keep closed for years, because he knew that saving a child was never just about that moment. It was about everything that came after, about the nightmares she would have, about the difficulty of trusting again, about the invisible scars that would never fully heal. But it was also about giving her a chance that he barely had, the chance to survive, to grow, to perhaps, one day, be happy. He held her hand with a gentleness no one would expect from a man of that size. And in that instant, with the cold wind blowing and the roar of Harleys in the background, Edge made a silent promise that as long as he was alive, children like her would have someone willing to show up, someone willing to see, someone willing to stay, because he knew what it was like when nobody stayed, and he would never let another child feel that way if he could prevent it. Edge held the girl's hand with the kind of gentleness that comes only from someone who has held broken things before and knows exactly how much pressure is too much. She looked at him as if trying to decide if she could trust him, if it was safe, if this adult was different from the others who had hurt her. He knew that hesitation. He had lived with it every day for years. When he was 6 years old, Edge woke up in a house that smelled of Winston cigarettes and spilled Budweiser beer on the brown carpet. His stepfather was in the living room, as always, watching a game he didn't really care about, but used as an excuse to yell. His mother was either passed out on the living room sofa or locked in her room with the door banging shut when the wind blew in through the broken window that no one ever fixed. And there he was, alone in the hallway, trying to figure out if that day would just be bad. No food, no attention, nothing. Or unbearable, with shouting belts and marks he'd have to hide under his sleeve at school the next day. He learned early on that adults lie. That promises of never again mean nothing when the bottle of whiskey is half empty. That shouting is useless when no one wants to listen, or when listening means having to do something, and it's easier to pretend you didn't see. That sometimes silence is the only armor you have. It took 12 years before someone finally noticed. A substitute math teacher named Ms. Chen, who saw the marks on his arm when his shirt sleeve rode up during physical education class. Who asked the right questions with the right voice. Who didn't accept the rehearsed answers he had memorized. Who called social services even knowing it would complicate her life, would bring investigations, would make her have to testify. But it was too late to save who he was before all of that. That boy, the one who believed in superheroes, who drew rockets in his notebook, who thought the world was good, had died sometime between the 3rd and 4th grade. What remained was this version, harder, colder, more broken, more willing to do whatever was necessary because he knew no one else would. Edge blinked. He returned to the present. The girl was still holding his hand. Her fingers were so thin, they looked like they would break if he squeezed them. He carefully and slowly removed the tape from her mouth, trying not to hurt the delicate skin around her lips. She gasped as air went back in. She coughed. She cried silently, only tears streaming down her dirty face. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice low. She didn't answer. She just looked at him with those eyes that knew too much for a 5-year-old. Eyes that had seen things no child should see. Edge looked at the boy, who was still near the trash can, observing everything with wide eyes. The boy approached slowly, each step hesitant, as if he still expected someone to yell at him for moving. "Her name is Lily," he said, his voice thin and trembling. "And I'm Noah." Edge nodded. He looked back at Lily. He began to loosen the restraints from her hands. The tape had cut off circulation. Her wrists were purple. "Where's your mother?" Edge asked, trying to keep his voice neutral. Noah lowered his head, his shoulders slumped as if someone had placed a 50-kilogram weight on them. She left. A long time ago, like 6 months, I think. She said she'd come back. But she didn't. And the father? The boy swallowed hard. He clenched his fists. "We never really knew our father. Mom said he left before Lily was born." Edge looked at the man who stood a few meters away, surrounded by the 3 motorcyclists like a cornered animal. He seemed smaller now, weaker. The false confidence had evaporated. "So who is this?" Edge asked, nodding his head. Noah looked at the man. Fear flashed through his eyes. "My mother's boyfriend," he replied, his voice breaking. "He showed up like a year ago, said he was going to take care of us, that we were going to be a real family, but he... The boy couldn't finish. He just clenched his fists so hard that his knuckles turned white. Edge took a deep breath. He felt the anger rising, hot, acidic. He looked at Lily. She was trembling. Not from cold, from fear of what would come next, of going back, of having to face that man again. "Where do you guys live?" Edge asked. "In a trailer," Noah said. "Near the highway, about 20 minutes from here. It's blue with a white stripe down the sides. But we can't go back there." "Why?" Noah looked straight into Edge's eyes. And what he saw there made his stomach churn. "Absolutely. Without a doubt. Because if we go back, he'll kill us. The last time Lily cried, he beat her so badly she couldn't walk properly for 3 days. And he said, the boy's voice broke completely now. He said that next time it would be worse, that he would make us disappear, that nobody would even look for us. The boy's voice was firm despite the tears. No dramatization, no exaggeration, just a fact, a stark truth that he had learned to accept. Because it was either that or go insane. Edge stood up slowly. He looked at the other bikers. The woman nodded. She already knew what to do. She had done this before. Take them to the hospital, Edge said, and call the social worker. The good one, Sarah, she'll know what to do. And him? The woman asked, discreetly pointing to the man with her chin. Edge looked at him. The man was sweating now, breathing rapidly, his hands trembling, his eyes searching for a way out that didn't exist. He's staying with me, Edge said, his voice low and dangerous. The woman carefully picked Lily up, as if holding fine porcelain. Noah held her hand tightly. The three walked toward one of the motorcycles. Edge saw Lily look back one last time. She looked at him, and for the first time there was something different in her eyes. Not hope yet, but perhaps the seed of it. Edge waited until they disappeared around the bend in the street, the roar of the Harley fading into the distance. Then he turned to the man. The silence between them was thick, heavy. Now it's just you and me, Edge said. And the man realized, too late, that he had made the worst mistake of his life, that he had chosen the wrong victims, that he had shown up at the wrong place, that he had underestimated the wrong man. And there was no turning back. The man took a step back, then another. His eyes darted nervously between Edge and the two bikers who were still there, the big scarred one and another older one with gray hair, and eyes that had seen too much. The big one crossed his enormous arms over his chest. The other lit a cigarette and watched in silence, like someone watching a movie whose ending he already knows but wants to see anyway. Look, man, I didn't really do anything, the man said, his voice cracking, coming out higher pitched than usual. Seriously, I was just giving the kids a ride. They were alone on the street and At 2 a.m, Edge interrupted, stepping forward. In an empty parking lot, with the girl's mouth taped shut, with her hands tied, and the boy crying outside, cold. She was yelling too much. I just wanted to... You're just what? The silence cut like a razor blade. The man looked at the ground, then at the sky, searching for a way out that didn't exist, searching for an excuse that made sense, searching for anything that would get him out of there. You don't understand the whole situation, he tried again, his voice changing, becoming more desperate. Their mother, she owes me a lot, like a whole lot, and I was just taking what was rightfully mine, what she promised. Edge narrowed his eyes. He felt his stomach churn. Children are not a form of debt repayment. Not for you. The man spat the words out now, a bit of his anger returning. But there are people out there who pay well, very well. And these two, he smiled, a crooked, sickly smile. They're worth their weight in gold. A tiny, pretty little girl, a boy, to do the hard work. There's a buyer for everything. The phrase hung in the air like poison. Edge felt something simmering inside him. It wasn't anger. It was disgust, pure disgust at breathing the same air as that man. The big guy stepped forward, fists already clenched, but Edge raised his hand. Not yet, not the way the big guy was thinking. You were going to sell them, Edge said. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact. The man hesitated. He realized he had said too much, but it was too late. I already had a buyer, he continued, as if he couldn't stop now, as if the words were coming out on their own. I was going to receive it today. 3,000 for the girl, 1,500 for the boy. 5 years of their free labor to pay what their mother owes me. But then you... He pointed at Edge, his finger trembling, had to show up and ruin everything. Edge took a deep breath. He tried to stay calm. He tried to remember that there were laws, that there were processes, that there were right ways to do things, that he was no longer that 15-year-old boy who solved everything with his fists because it was the only language he understood. But when she looked into that man's eyes, she saw something she had seen before in other monsters: empty. There was no remorse. There was no regret. There was no humanity. Just cold calculation. He was thinking about how to get out of there, how to escape, how to continue doing what he was doing because it was profitable and easy, and because vulnerable children always exist and always will. "Do you have children?" Edge asked suddenly. The man blinked, confused by the change of subject. "What difference does it make?" "Answer the question." "No, I never wanted one. Children are too much work and it's not worth it." Edge nodded slowly. "So, you don't know what it's like to look at a child and see a future, to see hope, to see someone who depends completely on you to survive, someone who believes in you even when they shouldn't." "Don't give me any moralizing, old man," the man retorted, regaining some of his arrogance. "The world is like this. It always has been. It always will be. Children become commodities when someone is willing to pay. And there's always someone willing to pay. I didn't invent this. I'm just playing the game." Edge took another step towards him. "And you think you're going to get out of here? You think you're going to keep playing this game?" The man hesitated. He looked around. No cars passing on the street. No pedestrians. No witnesses. Just him, Edge, and two motorcyclists who looked like stone statues waiting for the order to move. "I know people," he said, his voice trying to sound threatening but coming out shaky. "Really dangerous people, people who make you look like little girls on a Sunday afternoon. If you touch me, if you do anything to me, you'll regret it. You'll regret it a lot." Edge stopped just inches from him, so close he could smell the sour sweat and fear. "I know people too," Edge said, his voice low as distant thunder. And then, as if summoned from the other side of the parking lot, more headlights cut through the night. 4, 6, 8 motorcycles, all Harleys, all with riders who descended slowly without haste, their boots hitting the asphalt in unplanned but perfect synchronicity. They formed a circle around the Dodge, around the man, without saying anything, without making threats, just existing. Pure, heavy presence. The man looked around. His breathing quickened. It became shallow. Sweat trickled down his forehead despite the cold that made others shiver. His hands trembled violently. You can't do anything," he stammered. "I have rights. The law. You can't. You forfeited all your rights when you laid a hand on those children," Edge said, each word falling like a hammer. "When you decided they were merchandise, when you decided their lives were worth $5,000. The man opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound came out. And then, in a moment of pure animal desperation, he made the worst possible choice. He ran. He tried to run. He took 3 steps before the big guy could move. A movement too quick for a man that size. He brought down the fleeing man with a tackle that would make an NFL player proud. The impact was brutal. Bone and flesh against concrete. The sound echoed in the empty parking lot like a gunshot. The man tried to stand, his hands scraping the asphalt, but a black leather boot pressed against his back. Heavy, firm, immobile. There was nowhere left to run. The man gasped against the cold asphalt. Blood trickled from his broken nose, forming a small, dark puddle that reflected the yellow light of the nearest lamppost. He tried to turn his head, tried to see who was stepping on his back, but the angle prevented him from seeing. "Be quiet," the big guy said, his voice like a stone being dragged across gravel. The man was gasping for breath. He was spitting, blood mixed with saliva. "You can't kill me. That's murder. That's a crime." Edge crouched down beside him, so close he could see the fear in the man's eyes. Finally, real fear, not the false arrogance of before. Not the empty confidence, just pure terror, the terror of someone who finally understood he had gone too far. "No one is going to kill you," Edge said calmly, "but you will answer for what you did." "For whom?" "For you." The man spat out the words, along with more blood. "You're not a cop. You're nothing. This place is worthless." "No, but they are." On the other side of the parking lot, 2 police cars pulled in slowly. No sirens, lights off, silent as ghosts. 2 police officers got out, a woman with short, almost military-style hair, and an older man with a gray mustache and tired eyes, as if he had seen the worst of humanity, and yet still woke up every day and put on his uniform. The policewoman walked over to Edge. She looked at the man, on the ground, her boot still pressing against his back. Then she looked at Edge. There was something in her gaze. Recognition, respect, and perhaps a little weariness. "The children are on their way to St. Mary's Hospital," she said, her voice professional but with a hint of something softer underneath. "Social worker Sarah has already been contacted. She'll meet them there." Edge nodded. "He confessed," Edge said, "in front of everyone here. He said he was going to sell the children. He said he already had a buyer, 3,000 for one, 1,500 for the other." The policewoman looked at the man. Her expression hardened. Her jaw clenched. "Lift him up," she ordered. The big guy took the boot off the man's back. 2 motorcyclists pulled him up, each holding one arm. He staggered, his legs unwilling to support the weight, but he managed to stand. "I want a lawyer," he said, his voice trembling but trying to sound firm. "I'm not going to say anything else without a lawyer. Present." "You can't. You're going to need several," the policewoman replied, removing the handcuffs from her belt. Then she turned to Edge. Her eyes studied his face. "We need your statement, and the statements of the others who witnessed his confession." Edge looked at her. She knew that look. Sarah had told her about him, had told her who he was, what he did, how many children he had helped save in the last 5 years. And the policewoman was offering her a silent choice. He could testify. He could follow protocol. He could do everything correctly, the way the system requires. Or it could let the system do what it always did, release the man in 48 hours due to lack of concrete evidence or some legal technicality. Let an expensive lawyer find a loophole. Let him go back to the streets. Look for other children, other desperate parents with debts, other buyers. Edge looked at the man, then back at the policewoman. "I'll testify," he said, "but I want assurances that he won't. Get out, that there's no bail, that there's no plea bargain." The policewoman sighed. She looked at her partner. He shook his head slightly. "I can't guarantee that," she said, and there was genuine honesty in her voice. Weariness, too. "You know how the system works. You know there are loopholes, that there are expensive lawyers, that there are judges who don't care." Edge knew. The system was broken. It always had been. Children fell into the cracks every day. Monsters escaped through. Technical loopholes. And people like him were caught in the middle, trying to hold the pieces together, trying to make a difference knowing it would never be enough. He looked at the other bikers around him. 12 of them now. All quiet. All waiting, ready to do whatever was needed, whatever he asked. And then Edge made a decision that he knew would change everything, that would define what kind of man he was, that would show whether he still believed in anything beyond his own anger. "Take him," Edge told the policewoman, his voice firm. "Do the job, the right way. But if he gets out," he held her gaze, If he gets out and shows up near a child again, I'll be back. And next time, I won't call you first." It wasn't a threat. It was a promise, simple, direct, honest. The policewoman held his gaze for a long moment. She read something there. She understood. Then she nodded slowly. "Understood," she said. "I'll do everything I can." She signaled to her partner. They handcuffed the man. He was now yelling, threatening, spitting out the names of expensive lawyers, talking about rights, about lawsuits, about how he was going to sue everyone there, how he was going to destroy their lives. No one answered. They just watched as he was placed in the back seat of the police car. Door closed. Red and blue lights finally turning on. Edge stood still in the middle of the empty parking lot, watching the lights fade into the darkness. The roar of the police car's engine faded, until it disappeared completely. The big guy approached. He placed his enormous hand on Edge's shoulder. "You did the right thing," he said. Edge shook his head slowly. "I don't know. I still don't know." Because inside him, a voice whispered something he had been trying to ignore for years, ever since the first child he saved, only to see him return to the same hell 2 weeks later because the system had failed. The voice said that doing the right thing wasn't always enough. Sometimes, the only real justice was the justice you yourself dispensed. And that perhaps, just perhaps, he had made a mistake in handing that man over to a system he knew was broken. Edge looked up at the sky, clouds covering the stars, cold cutting his face, and for the first time in a long time, he wasn't sure if he had made the right choice. Edge didn't sleep that night. He couldn't. He sat on the old sofa in the clubhouse, the one with cracked leather that had been there when he joined the club 7 years ago, a bottle of warm beer forgotten on the coffee table, his eyes fixed on the wall, but not really seeing anything. The television was on, some late-night program about fishing in Alaska. He wasn't paying attention. He only heard the murmur of voices as background noise, trying to fill the heavy silence that pressed against his chest. But inside his head, only one thing echoed. The man's words. "I know people." 3 words, simple, common, but heavy as lead. Because men like that were never alone. They never operated in isolation. There was always a network, a web, contacts, partners, superiors, and when you pulled a thread, when you ripped out a knot, the whole web trembled. And bigger, more dangerous spiders felt the vibration. His phone vibrated on the table. Edge looked at the screen, unknown number, area code he didn't recognize. He hesitated, then he answered, "Hello." Silence on the other end. Just breathing, controlled, calm, waiting. Then a voice, distorted, electronically processed. It could be a man or a woman, young or old, impossible to tell. "You made a mistake." Edge remained motionless, every muscle tense. "Who are you?" "You took something that wasn't yours." "They were children," Edge said, his voice low but firm. "Not merchandise, not property, children." A laugh, low, cold, humorless. "Not for you. Yes, for us. And now you've created a problem, an expensive problem. And expensive problems need to be solved." Edge squeezed the phone so hard that the screen protested. "I don't owe anything to anyone." "No?" the voice asked, still calm, still processing. "Do you think arresting an idiot changes anything? He was just the delivery guy, a pawn, a nobody. But who buys, who sells, who really controls this? It's bigger than you imagine, bigger than you can understand." "Then come and get me," Edge said. "Come and solve your problem." Silence. 1, 2, 3 seconds. After. "I don't need to come to you. I already know where you live. I know the address of the clubhouse. I know where your club meets on Thursday nights. And most importantly," the voice paused. letting the venom spread. I know exactly where those children are right now. Edge's heart raced. Blood pumped in his ears. If you touch them, what are you going to do? The voice cut off, still calm. Call the police again. That pretty policewoman who thinks she can make a difference. Another laugh. They can't protect anyone. You know that. I know that. Everyone knows that. It's just paperwork. Protocol. Theater. I swear that if you're not in a position to swear to anything, the voice said. You're in a position to listen. And here's what you're going to do. You're going to step aside. You're going to forget about those children. You're going to let the system do what it always does, fail, and you're going to learn not to stick your nose where it doesn't belong. Never. Then you'll learn the hard way. The call dropped. Edge stared at his phone. His hand trembled, not from fear, from pure rage. He stood up. He walked to the window. He looked at the empty street. Streetlights illuminating yellow circles on the wet asphalt, shadows moving between the parked cars. Or was it paranoia? Or was there actually someone out there watching? It didn't matter. He grabbed the motorcycle keys, he grabbed his leather jacket, and he left. St. Mary's Hospital was quiet when Edge arrived. 3:47 a.m. Only emergency lights were on in the hallways. Nurses were changing shifts. A heavy silence, a place where people fight between life and death. He parked away from the main entrance, hiding his motorcycle between two ambulances. He walked through the shadows to the sides to the children's ward. The nurse at reception looked up, her tired eyes wide. She must have been about 50 years old, deep dark circles under her eyes, a badge reading Margaret, 23 years of service. Visiting hours only begin at 6 in the morning, she said automatically, without emotion. I know, Edge replied, approaching. I just came to check if the children who were admitted tonight are okay. The girl and the boy, Lily and Noah. She studied him. She looked from his face to his boots, to the patches on his leather jacket, to the way he moved. Are you a relative? I'm the guy who saved them. Something changed in the nurse's eyes. They softened. Oh, Sarah mentioned you. She said you would show up. Are they all right? She nodded. Asleep. Room 304, pediatric, ward. The social worker is with them. She spent the whole night there. Edge felt a slight weight lift from his shoulders. Can I just look? I'm not going in. I just want to be sure. The nurse hesitated. She looked around. There was no one there. She sighed. 5 minutes. And you didn't see me. Thanks. Edge walked down the silent hallway. Linoleum floor reflecting the fluorescent lights. Each step echoed louder than it should. When he reached room 304, he slowed his pace. He looked through the glass door. Lily and Noah slept in hospital beds side by side. The girl hugged a teddy bear that someone had given her. The boy lay beside her, one hand outstretched toward his sister's bed, as if even in his sleep he needed to be sure she was there. Sarah, the social worker, was sitting in a chair between the two beds. Her head was resting against the wall. Her eyes were closed. She was asleep too, but with that kind of light sleep that comes from being ready to wake up at the slightest noise. Edge breathed a sigh of relief. They were safe. For now. Then he saw something that made his blood run completely cold. In the corner by the window, outside, 3 stories above the ground, a brand, small, red, still fresh, an X, made with spray paint, recent enough that it's still glistening a little under the streetlight. Edge felt the world stop. He turned toward the hallway. He looked in every direction. Nobody, but someone had been there. Recently. He ran to the emergency staircase. He climbed the steps 2 at a time, his boots clattering against the metal, echoing in the gap. He reached the roof. The door was unlocked. It opened with a metallic groan. Edge went out onto the roof. A cold wind cut his face. He looked around. Empty. Just the humming of air conditioning units, antennas, water tanks. But on the floor near the ledge facing the window of room 304 there were footprints, sneaker sole marks, still fresh. Dust around them slightly disturbed. And next to them, tucked under a small rock so it wouldn't blow away in the wind, was a note. Edge bent down. He picked it up. Plain paper, folded once. It opened. 3 words written by hand. Neat handwriting, almost beautiful. We always come back. Edge climbed down from the roof with the crumpled note in his fist. He didn't run. He didn't scream. Walking with purpose was more threatening than any desperate run. Jaw clenched, eyes burning. When he arrived at the parking lot, he pulled out his cell phone and dialed. He didn't even look at the name. He just pressed the number he knew by heart. 3 rings. Someone answered. "Gather everyone together," Edge said without greeting. "House club, now." On the other end, the hoarse voice of the club president, tired from years on the road, but instantly alert. "What time is it? It doesn't matter." They marked the children. Heavy silence for 2 seconds. After 30 minutes. "Everyone will be there." The call dropped. When Edge arrived at the clubhouse, the parking lot was already full. 12 Harleys were lined up with military-style precision. Engines were still cooling down, making those metallic sounds that metal makes when it heats up and then contracts. Inside, cigarette and cigar smoke hung in the air like fog. Men and women in leather sat around the long oak table. Marked faces, tattoos telling stories, scars telling others. All quiet. Waiting. The president stood at the head of the table, arms crossed over his broad chest. Grey beard, a heavy look, the weight of responsibility. "Speak," he said when Edge entered. Edge threw the ticket on the table. "They know where the children are. They know where we meet. They left this at the hospital. 3rd floor. They marked the window of the room where they slept." The big guy picked up the note. He read it. He passed it to the person next to him. He circled the table. Each face grew harder as they read. "This is war," the big guy said, slamming his fist on the table. Glasses clinked. "No," a voice cut off from the back of the room. They all turned around. It was the woman, the one with the clear blue icy eyes. She was leaning against the wall in a dark corner, smoking slowly. No one had noticed when she had arrived. "This isn't war," she continued, stepping toward the light. "This is bait." Edge frowned. "Like this? They want us to do stupid things," she explained, stubbing out her cigarette on an old tin can. "They want us to go after them blinded by rage. They want us to act without thinking, and when we do, they'll be ready. With more people, more weapons, more of everything, they'll massacre us and then say it was self-defense." The president nodded slowly. "She's right. If we react now, in the heat of the moment, we'll fall into a trap. And we'll lose. And when we lose, the children will be unprotected. What if we do nothing?" Edge asked, his voice rising. "They'll take the children. They'll finish what they started. They'll do to them what they were going to do before." "Not if we move them first," the woman said. Everyone looked at her. "Do you have a place?" the president asked. She nodded. "I have it. 3 hours from here, countryside, isolated farm. I bought it 5 years ago with money no one can trace. No registration in my name, no GPS, no internet, nothing. No one will find it, not even if they look for it." "And what about the social worker? The police?" Edge asked. "They're not going to let us just disappear with 2 children who are in state custody." "We'll talk to them," the woman replied. "Show them the note, explain the situation. If they really want to protect these children, they'll understand. They'll let us do what needs to be done." Edge looked around the table. He saw the faces of the other bikers, tired, marked by years on the road and by struggle, but firm, determined. They had done this before. Not exactly this, but similar things. Hiding families from abusers. Moving witnesses that the police couldn't protect. Doing what the system couldn't or wouldn't do. "Okay," Edge finally said, "but I'm going too." The woman looked at him. She studied his face. "You are the main target. If you go, they will follow. They will track you. They will find you." "Exactly." A heavy silence fell over the room. The president sighed deeply. "Are you sure about this? Do you understand what you're proposing?" Edge nodded. "I brought this on top of them. I saved them. But I also put them in greater danger. Now I'm finished. I'll make sure they're safe. No matter what." Nobody argued. Because everyone there knew the simple, brutal truth. When you saved a child, you didn't stop until you were absolutely certain that they were truly, completely, finally safe. And sometimes, that meant putting yourself in the line of fire. It meant being the target. It meant sacrificing. The president slammed his hand on the table. The sound echoed like a judge's gavel. "So that's it. We move the children at dawn. Edge goes. Ahead as bait. We cover the rear. We set up defenses on the farm. Anyone who follows..." He looked around the table. "Anyone who follows doesn't come back. Understood?" One by one, the motorcyclists stood up. They banged their fists on the table, a sign of agreement, of commitment. There were no dramatic speeches. There were no empty promises, just unwavering stares. We kept our heads silent, because that was their language. Action, not words. And that night, they were going to act. Dawn came. Gray and cold. Fog clung to the asphalt like dead skin over an old wound. The sky had that leaden color that promises rain but never delivers. Edge was standing in front of the hospital when Sarah came out. She had deep, valley-like dark circles under her eyes. She clutched a Starbucks coffee cup as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. When she saw Edge, she stopped. "They called me," she said before Edge could say anything. Her voice was tired, frightened. He felt his stomach sink. "Who?" "I don't know. Private number, blocked. But they said..." She took a deep breath, trembling. "They said they know where I live. They know my children's names. Tommy and Emma. They know where they go to school. And if I let you move the children, if I don't return Lily and Noah, they'll find me. They'll find my children." Edge instinctively looked around. The parking lot, the surrounding streets, the shadows between the buildings, parked cars. Was someone watching now? Recording? Reporting? When was this? 10 minutes ago. I was still upstairs with them. The phone rang and Her voice broke. "They described my house. They described my children's school. They knew what time I leave, what time I come back. Everything." "Did you tell the police?" She shook her head, tears beginning to fall. "They said that if I told any authority, if I did anything other than cooperate, my children would disappear. That I would never find the bodies. That I would spend the rest of my life wondering if they were still alive in some basement being... She couldn't finish. She covered her face with her hands. The coffee fell to the floor. The lid came off. Brown liquid spilled out. Edge approached. He placed his hand on her shoulder. "You're not going to risk anything. We'll take care of it. We'll protect you and your children too." Sarah looked at him through her tears. Red eyes. Desperate. "What?" she asked, her voice breaking. "You're bikers. You're not the army. You're not superheroes with powers. These people, they're an organization, a network. They have tentacles everywhere. Police, judges, hospitals. You don't stand a chance. You're going to die, and my children are going to die, and Lily and Noah are going to die, and..." "Sarah," Edge said firmly, holding her shoulders. "Breathe. Look at me." She obeyed. She took a deep breath, trembling. "We've faced worse," Edge said, "and we survived, and this time will be no different." What if it happens? What if she choked. What if you die trying? What if I let you take these children and they end up dead because of me? Edge had no answer for that. Because the truth was, he didn't know. He couldn't guarantee it. He couldn't promise that everything would be all right. He looked towards the hospital entrance. Through the glass, he could see all the way to the third-floor corridor. He saw Lily and Noah sitting on a stretcher. A nurse was checking their vital signs. The boy was hugging his sister. Lily looked out the window, as if she sensed she was being watched. She looked directly at where Edge was. And even from afar, through the glass and the distance, Edge saw in her eyes the same thing he had seen that night in the parking lot. Fear. Pure terror at the thought of going back, of being caught again. That all of that was just a brief relief before hell begins all over again. Edge looked back at Sarah. "You have two choices," he said. "Let us move them, protect them, or they stay here and wait for the worst to happen. Because you know as well as I do that if they stay here, this organization will find a way. They'll bribe someone, they'll threaten someone, they'll get to them. And when they do," he paused, "you'll wonder for the rest of your life if you could have done things differently." Sarah closed her eyes. She squeezed them tightly. Her whole body trembled. "If anything happens to them, anything happens to my children, I will never forgive myself. If you don't let—" "I asked try," Edge said softly. "You won't either." She opened her eyes. She looked at Edge, searching for certainty, guarantee, absolute promise. He didn't give any, because I couldn't. She sighed, deeply, painfully. Then he nodded. "Okay, you have 2 hours, just 2. After that, I'll call the police and tell them everything, every detail, and I'll accept the consequences." Edge nodded. "That's all we need." 23 minutes later, Lily and Noah were in the back of a black van with tinted windows, covered with thick blankets. Sarah had convinced the nurse that they needed tests at another hospital. Fake paperwork, but convincing enough. The woman with icy eyes was driving, Edge on the Harley in front, 3 motorcycles behind, covering, protecting. They left the city in silence, without sirens, without fanfare. The road was empty. It was still very early. Just fields on both sides, corn already harvested, brown earth, heavy sky promising a storm. Edge looked in the motorcycles. Rearview mirror, no cars, no motorcycles, nothing. But he knew. I felt it. They were being watched, tracked, followed. And then, 5 kilometers after they left the main highway, he saw it. A black pickup truck, tinted windows, a metal grille welded onto the front, coming fast down the side road that connected to the main road. Edge accelerated. He signaled to the van. The woman saw it in the rear-view mirror. She floored it. The diesel engine roared. The pickup truck accelerated as well. An impossible speed for a dirt road, and then, from a side road to the right, another pickup truck appeared. Same color, same model, then another one on the left. 3 vehicles, forming a triangle, surrounding. Edge looked back. The 3 motorcycles had spread out. They formed a moving barrier between the pickup trucks and the van. The first pickup truck accelerated more. It tried to overtake on the right. The big guy cut in front with the Harley, forced her to swerve, tires screeching, dust rising. The second pickup truck tried to go from the left. Another motorcycle blocked the road. But the third pickup truck, the third one, came straight ahead. It didn't try to overtake. It didn't try to swerve. He came straight to Edge. He saw the headlights shining even in the daylight. He saw the metal grille. He saw the driver, face covered with a black bandana, eyes fixed, determined. Edge swerved at the last second. The pickup truck grazed by. So close he felt the air displacement. He lost his balance. The motorcycle skidded on the loose dirt. He fell. The impact was brutal, leather tearing, skin burning against gravel. He rolled once, twice, 3 times. He stopped to the side. He raised his head. There was a taste of blood in his mouth. The pickup truck had flipped into a U-turn. The engine was roaring. He was coming straight at him again, and this time Edge had no way to dodge. The sound of the V8 engine was the roar of a raging beast. Edge tried to stand, but his right leg wouldn't respond. Sharp, knife-like pain shot up his thigh. Twisted ankle, maybe broken. He fell to his knees, hands on the ground. Breath caught. The pickup truck was 50 meters away, 40, 30, accelerating. Edge closed his eyes for a fraction of a second. He thought of Lily, of Noah, of their eyes, of the fragile hope he had placed there. Then he listened. Harley's roar, loud, close, too fast. He opened his eyes. The woman with icy eyes came diagonally. Motorcycle leaned at an impossible angle. Suicidal speed, she passed between Edge and the pickup truck like a bullet, so close he felt the wind. The pickup truck driver swerved instinctively. Lost control. The vehicle skidded, spun, rolled over, once, twice, 3 times. Metal crumpling, glass shattering. It came to rest on its side 50 meters ahead. Black smoke billowed from the destroyed hood. The woman braked hard. She skidded. She got off the motorcycle before it came to a complete stop. She ran to Edge. "Can you stand up?" He nodded. He leaned on her. He strained his leg. Blinding pain. But he stood up. "Is it there?" "It's already past the barrier. It's on its way. Hold on tight." Edge breathed a sigh of relief for 2 seconds. Only 2. Because on the other side of the road, coming from the curve that hid the city, more vehicles appeared. 3 pickup trucks, 2 unmarked black vans, 1 black SUV, 6 vehicles, at least 20 men. The woman looked around. The other bikers were surrounded, fighting, blocking, doing the best they could. But there were few of them, and the enemies, far too many. "We won't be able to hold them all back," she said, and there was something in her voice that Edge had never heard before. Fear. Real. Honest. Raw. He picked up his cell phone, his hands trembling. Blood trickled from the cut on his forehead. He dialed. The president answered on the first ring. "Situation? We're surrounded. At least 20 hostile forces. Heavy vehicles. We need reinforcements now." "I already sent them. 8 motorcycles, but they'll take 15 minutes. "We don't have 15 minutes, Edge said, watching the vehicles approach, forming a semicircle, blocking any exit. Heavy silence on the other end, 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. "After. So you know what to do. Hold on as long as you can. Protect the van. That's all that matters." The call dropped. Edge looked at the woman. "Get on the motorcycle, go after the van. Protect them. And you? I'll hold them here." "You can't even walk properly. I don't need to walk. I just need to give it time." She studied him. She read something in his face. She understood what he wasn't saying. He didn't expect to get out of there alive, that he was making peace with it. Some things are worth dying for. "No," she said, her voice firm. "We either go out together or we don't go out at all." Edge smiled. Sad. Tired. "You've always been too stubborn for your own good. I learned from the best." They stood side by side, waiting. 2 against 20. The pickup truck stopped. They formed a line. Doors opened. Men got out, 10, 12, 15, all armed, baseball bats, chains. 2 guns that Edge managed to see. One of them stepped forward, tall, wide. He removed the mask, covering his face. Edge felt his blood run cold. It was him, the man, the same one they had arrested, the same one who should have been in a cell awaiting trial. "How did you—" Edge began. "Bail," the man said, smiling that sickly smile. "I paid it last night. $10,000. I was out in 2 hours. And now—" He looked around at his men, at the surrounded bikers. Now I'm going to finish what I started. I'm going to get those kids back, and you. He pointed at Edge. You're going to learn what happens when you meddle where you're not wanted. He signaled. The men advanced. Edge and the woman retreated. No weapons, no way out, no backup. And then, breaking the heavy silence, the sound of sirens. Distant, but getting closer. Everyone stopped. They stared. 3 police cars appeared on the road, then 3 more, 6 in total, red and blue lights dotting the landscape. The short-haired policewoman got out of the car, gun in hand. Everyone on the ground, hands on your head, now. The men hesitated. They looked at the leader. The leader looked at her, then at Edge, calculating, weighing options. This doesn't end here, he said, his voice low but full of promise. It never ends. We always come back. Then he turned around. He ran back to the pickup truck. Half the men followed him. The other half threw down their weapons and lay down on the ground. 3 pickup trucks sped away, quickly, raising clouds of dust. They disappeared in different directions. The policewoman lowered her weapon. She ran to Edge. Are you okay? Do you need an ambulance? Edge nodded, but not for himself. One of ours is lying there, he pointed, near that wrecked pickup truck. She followed his gaze. And then Edge saw. One of the motorcycles is down, destroyed. The front wheel is completely crushed, and next to her a body, property. He was the big guy, blood pooling around his head. Edge felt the world stop. He tried to run. His leg gave way. He fell. The woman held him. No. Leave it to the paramedics. But Edge knew, judging by the way the body was positioned, because of the wrong neck angle, based on the amount of blood. The big guy was dead. And it was his fault. The wake was small. Just the club members. 12 people around a simple pine coffin. No priest, no rehearsed speech, no religious music. Just silence, and the unbearable weight of yet another loss. Edge stood in front of the coffin. His eyes were dry. His chest was hollow like an abandoned cave. He had known that man. Michael was his real name, but no one had called him that in years. For 12 years. They had saved 17 children together. They had bled together in 4 different fights. They had shared the last beer in a closing bar in Montana. They had been brothers on the road, and now he was dead. Why? Because Edge had made the choice to save 2 children, and that had cost a life. Was it worth it? He didn't know. I couldn't decide. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, tried to find words, anything, but there were no words for that kind of pain. When he opened his eyes, the woman was beside him. She didn't say anything. She just put her hand on his shoulder. It wasn't your fault, she said finally, her voice low. He was. He knew the risk. We always know. From the day we enter this life. Edge shook his head. Nothing changes. He's dead. And it was my decision that put him there. It was his decision too. He chose to be there. He chose to protect those children. He chose to do the right thing. And he died because of it. Silence, because there was no argument against it. The children are safe, she said after a while. Lily and Noah, they arrived at the farm. No one followed them. They are protected. Edge nodded. He tried to feel something. Relief, satisfaction, victory. But he only felt empty. 3 days later, Edge was sitting alone on a park bench near the hospital. Weak winter sun. Clear sky, but no warmth. Children were playing in the nearby playground, laughing, shouting, being children. He just watched. Then the phone rang. He looked. Unknown number again. He almost didn't answer, but something told him to answer. Hello. Silence. Then, a small voice, sweet, hesitant. Hey, Edge. Froze. Heart raced. Lily? Yes. He sat up straight. He looked around as if he could see her somewhere. "How did you get my number?" "Sarah gave it to me. She said you saved us, that you're kind of a hero." Edge didn't know what to say, because he didn't feel like a hero. Heroes didn't lose people. Heroes didn't fail. "Are you okay?" he asked. "Yeah. Noah, too. We're on a farm right now. There are horses and chickens. It's cool." "Great." Silence. After, "I wanted to say thank you." Her voice was so innocent, so sincere. "You don't need to thank me," Edge said, his voice trembling. "Yes, I need to. Because—" She paused. She breathed. "Because if you hadn't shown up that night, we would have died, or worse, and now we're safe. And that's because of you." Edge closed his eyes. He felt something break inside him, a crack that he had been holding tightly shut. "But there are other children, right?" Lily asked, her voice changing, becoming more serious. Edge opened his eyes. "What? Other children? Like me and Noah, who are waiting for someone to save them, who are scared, who are suffering?" He took a deep breath. "Yes, it does. Are you going to save them too?" Edge remained silent. A long silence. Because the truth was, he didn't know if he could. Not after losing Michael. Not after seeing the price. But then he remembered. From Lily's eyes. From Noah's eyes. From despair. From fear. From fragile hope. And I knew I didn't have a real choice. As long as he was alive and there was a child expecting him, he couldn't stop. The cost didn't matter. "Yes," he said, his voice firm, "I will go." Lily sighed, relieved. "Thank you. Again. Take care of your brother." "I take care of it, I always have." The call dropped. Edge kept staring at the phone, then he stood up. He looked at the sky. He took a deep breath, and he walked towards the motorcycle. Because as long as there were children waiting for someone to appear, for someone to see, for someone to stay, he couldn't stop. Edge spent the next 5 days investigating, tracking, connecting dots that the police didn't connect because they didn't want to or couldn't. The network was bigger than anyone imagined. It wasn't just one man, nor 10, nor 20. It was a structured organization, with tentacles in hospitals where babies disappeared, in shelters where children vanished without investigation, in schools where teachers looked the other way when marks appeared. And at the center of it all, a name that always appeared in whispers, never in official documents. Kovac. No one knew his first name, no one had seen his face clearly, but everyone knew what he did. He bought children from desperate parents. He sold them to the highest bidder. He transported them across state borders, and he was never, ever caught. Until now. Because Edge had found a clue. An address scribbled on a crumpled piece of paper found in the pocket of one of the men arrested after the confrontation on the road. An abandoned warehouse in the industrial suburbs, where old factories died and nobody asked questions. And on Friday night, with the new moon casting shadows all around, Edge went there. Not alone. 8 motorcycles, including his, all volunteers, all aware of the risk. Everyone's going anyway. They stopped 2 blocks from the warehouse. They turned off the engines. They walked through the shadows between dead buildings. When they got closer, they saw 3 vans, white, no windows, license plates, covered with tape. Inside the warehouse, the lights were on. Voices were muffled. Edge signaled. Total silence. They split up. They surrounded the building on all sides. Edge went to the metal side door. He peered through the small gap between the door and the frame. He saw something that made his anger rise like lava. Cages, small, made of industrial metal, thick grate, heavy-duty padlocks, and inside them, children. 7, maybe 8, hard to count from the angle, some crying softly, others in absolute silence, empty eyes, dead hope. The youngest looked to be about 3 years old, the oldest perhaps 10. Edge felt something burning inside him. It wasn't just anger, it was fury, pure, justified, holy. He signaled to the others. They went inside, silent as death. The two guards didn't even see it. They were taken down in seconds, without a sound, without a chance. Edge ran to the cages. He ripped off the padlocks, one by one, metal protesting. "Get out. Now, you're safe." The children hesitated. Fear outweighed hope. "I'm not going to hurt you," Edge said, crouching down to their level. "But we need to get out of here, quickly, trust me." A girl, maybe 6 years old, black hair, enormous eyes. She took a step forward, then another child, a little boy, and another one. They all started to leave slowly, trembling, frightened, but leaving. And then the main metal door burst open with a bang. A man walked in, tall, expensive suit, perfectly combed gray hair. A face you'd see in a business meeting and trust. Kovac. He looked at Edge, then at the children emerging from their cages, then at the bikers, then at the unconscious guards. And she smiled. "Do you really think this changes anything?" Edge stepped forward. "It ends today. Here. Now." Kovac laughed. "Sounds genuinely funny. You're naive. Charmingly naive. But naive. This never ends. Never. There will always be demand. Parents selling their children for crack. Children no one wants. Buyers willing to pay. Fortunes. It's basic economics, supply and demand, not while I'm alive." Kovac stopped laughing. He looked at Edge with cold, calculating eyes. "Then maybe you shouldn't be here." He raised his hand. Behind him, emerging from a hidden office in the back, 10 men entered, armed, real guns this time. Edge looked around. His bikers, the frightened children behind him, no apparent way out. But then something fell from the ceiling. Small cylinders. 4, 5, 6. They hit the ground. Tear gas. White. Smoke exploded. It filled the warehouse in seconds. Kovac shouted. The men coughed. They stumbled. They shot blindly. And through the back door, which no one had seen, the police stormed in. 20 agents. Bulletproof shields, gas masks, trained, professionals. The policewoman with short hair entered last. She was also wearing a mask. He saw Edge protecting the children with his own body. She didn't say anything. She just nodded. Kovac was arrested, handcuffed with excessive force, taken away. The others too. All of them. The children were rescued, covered with thermal blankets, taken away by kind social workers. And Edge finally breathed a sigh of relief. The policewoman took off her mask. She looked at him. "You should have waited for us." Edge smiled wearily. "That's not my style." She shook her head, almost smiling. "I know." 2 months later, Edge was sitting on a wooden bench in a small square. Sunday afternoon. Weak sun, but present. I watched children playing in the colorful playground. Red slide, blue swings, laughter. Lily and Noah were there, living with a foster family now, a couple in their 40s, no biological children, lots of love to give, smiling, running, being real kids. Books. Edge didn't approach. He didn't want to interrupt. He didn't want to remind them of the trauma, of the fear, of the night in the parking lot. He only watched from afar, and he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Not complete peace. It never would be, because Michael was still dead. Because other children were still suffering somewhere. Because the fight never truly ended. But perhaps something like acceptance. Like a renewed purpose. Lily looked in his direction, as if she sensed she was being watched. Eyes met even though they were 50 meters apart. She waved, small, shy. Edge waved back, and then he stood up. Slowly, his legs still ached sometimes from the accident on the road. He walked over to the Harley parked in the shade. He climbed up. He started the engine. He felt the familiar vibration, the deep rumble, the promise of the road, and he left. Because some heroes don't have perfect happy endings. They just have the next fight, the next child waiting, the next monster that needs to be stopped. And as long as there are children crying in empty parking lots, as long as there are eyes pleading for help that no one else sees, as long as there are small hands trembling with cold and fear, Edge would be there, always, not because it was easy, but because it was right, and because he knew better than anyone what it was like when no one showed up. The Harley's roar faded into the distance, and in the square, Lily went back to playing. But first, he looked at the sky, and he whispered something that only she heard. Thanks. If this story truly touched you, please like this video now. Subscribe to the channel because stories like this need to be told. And click on the next video that's already appearing on the screen, because there are more children waiting, and the fight never ends. What happens when a biker realizes that the child he just saved wasn't the only victim? The next video is on your screen now, and what you'll discover in the first 30 seconds will leave you speechless. Click before it's too late.